I was thinking what the 7 Ushpizin have to do with Sukkos and the Zman Simchasenu. So when you think of the Ushpizin, the 7 shepherds, you think, wow, they're so lucky. They're so lucky that they are the 7. They brought down all the 7 midos, the 7 characteristics, the divine qualities. They were able to display them, and for man to see that human beings can live in a divine fashion. But, so what's the connection to Sukkot though? And what we've been saying over the last few days, I think this idea becomes more crystallized. These 7 people were able to live lives of simcha. as much as their lives were extremely difficult. If you go through each one of the 7 shepherds, how many tsaras did they have? And with all the tsaras, all the suffering that they had, we know about Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Bakol, Mikol, Kol. They felt they had everything. They lived, these 7 shepherds lived with simcha without a lot of external factors to make simcha in their lives. And if you look through most of their lives, they didn't have a lot to be happy about. A lot of their lives. We don't have time to do all 7. Let's just do tonight's.
All right.
Let's look at Aaron. Aaron Kohen. Aaron Kohen was born. He's the young middle child. Now we know Miriam was called Miriam. Why? Because when she was born, it was Mar.
Bitter.
The worst part of the Egyptian Holocaust was happening. And Aaron was born a few years after that, 4 years later. In the worst part of the Egyptian servitude. And during his entire life, those first 83 years, all he knew was pain and suffering for the Jewish people. Think about it. Think about what Holocaust survivors looked like after 6 years of Holocaust.
Imagine after 80, 70.
Those of us who have parents who are survivors, who they were emotionally crippled in so many ways. And that was from a mere 6 years. And now you talk 83 years. What kind of crippling effect this is. And Aaron had to probably officiate at so many funerals of horrific deaths of people. And then finally, it comes to the time where Hashem is going to save the people, and he's looking to bring a redeemer for the people. And Moshe is going to be the one that was selected, who Moshe conveniently or inconveniently, for the 20 years or so he was in Egypt, he lived in the palace. And then for a couple of days, he had a little bit of tsaras there, and then he goes out of town for 60-odd years.
Sometimes in Florida.
You know, and now he comes back, a new face in town. And you figure Aaron should be the one to at least get the payback, to be the leader to take them out. And Moshe himself said, there's no way I could do this. It's too cruel to do this to my brother. And Hashem says to him, he says, no, you don't have to worry, because your brother's going to see you. Ve'ra'acha v'somach b'libo. He's going to see you and rejoice in his heart. So you see that Aaron has simcha, even though he doesn't get the job to be the leader to take the Jewish people out. If who suffered more with the Jewish people as a leader than Aaron? And he does not get the glitz, and he does not get the glory, and you should know that's a very difficult thing. Imagine you're working on a project for so many years. You've been working on the project, and then the boss brings in a new guy and says he's going to represent the company to the world. After all the years that you spent researching, this is the guy who's going to... You'd be so upset. And Aaron was rejoicing. And because of that, he merited to be the Kohen Gadol. And let's put it this way. In the very beginning of him being the Kohen Gadol, what happens on that very day when it starts? His 2 firstborn sons die. The 2 Gedolei Hador. All the Jews were equal to those 2. Can you imagine your budding 2 sons taken away in the prime of their lives? And Aaron is silent and continues to do his avoda He has to bless the Jewish people. He has to give them the Birchas Kohanim, which has to be done be'ava, with love. On the day that his children die, can there be anybody who had simcha under the most difficult situations? And that's why, what was the merit? What was the special reward he got for being silent? He got a special command that was given to him and only to him. And what was that command, Sam? The Kohen. The special Kohen. That a Kohen cannot drink wine when he goes into the Bais HaMikdash to serve. And why? What's the bottom line? What's the point? Because, you got to serve with simcha. But he says, serve with simcha, but not with external motivators.
Spiritual simcha.
It's got to be an internal simcha from inside of you. You're going to be the Kohen. So look at Aaron. Look at what his life was. Can you imagine every day he would go into the Bais HaMikdash, the vision of his two dead sons would be before him, and he'd see this, and he would have to live with this, and he would have to live and do his service with simcha all the time. If you really think about it, he's a human being. He's still a human being, Aaron. And to have this kind of simcha.
And the whole thing with the golden calf.
And we could go on and on and on. They get the Torah at Sinai, and then with the golden calf. And if you remember how we learned with the Shvilei Pinchas, how he was willing to take the rap
for the
Jewish people. He'd be willing to take the rap. The easy way out would be to be killed, like Hur, and he didn't take the easy way out. He took the whole blame would come upon him for making the golden calf. Why? To save the Jewish people. All those things that Aaron was involved with, and so much more. Korach's revolution, wanting to take his job away from him. All these things.
Marriage counselors,
but Aaron was the man with simcha all the time. And that's our guest tonight.
Wow.
So each and every one of us knows the misery of his own soul. And knows the things that can hold us back from having simcha. So if you need any counseling,
he's here
today. You go to Aaron, have a little talk with him.
That's right.
Go learn a little bit more of what he went through. If he was here, he created so much shalom bias in the world. Everybody told him his problems. Today is the day you tell Aaron, you go, Aaron, my Tyra Zadie, please listen to my problems. And I was going to say, you don't have to worry. What you think isn't going to be good for you, that's what made me a Kohen Gadol. And the Jewish people we're a Mamlechas Kohanim. We're a kingdom of priests. Each and every one of us is capable of being a priest, but we have to know how to have that simcha. So we thank Aaron for visiting us. We thank all the other. If you go through all of them every night, you see but they still had simcha under all those conditions. We should all be zeicha to lots and lots of simcha this year to be able to overcome the challenges, and the mission to be zeicha to a year of simcha, and to be able to greet the Ushpizin when Mashiach comes. Amen. That's another niggin or two.
Sure.
Wrap it up for tonight. No, Elchanan, would you like to start a song, please?
Fast song?
Oh, maybe we could do a slow one and a fast.
From the davening, that Sukkot is called Zman Simchasenu. It's a time of our simcha, of our joy. But it's not clear, at least from the wording, what the source of the joy is. The other one, Zman Cherusenu, we know about Yetzias Mitzrayim, we know about the Exodus. Zman Matan Terusenu, we know about the Torah is given on Har Sinai. What's the Zman Simchasenu exactly? So there's a Medrash, the Yalkut Shimoni, points out that it says the word Simcha regarding relationship to Sukkot So 3 times. In Parshas, we're going to be laning on Shmini Atzeres, in Parshas Re'eh, it says, "V'somachta b'chagecha v'yisach sameach." I don't know if you sang it as a song here.
Not yet. Not
Not
tonight
yet.
yet. It's coming up.
Yeah.
On the hip parade.
Yeah. And in Parshas Emor, which we read, we says we read the first 2 days. It says v'lekachtem lechem, says b'yom harishon, you should take it the first day. You take you take the lulav, kapas tamorim, the Peri Eitzoder, Kapas Tamorim, says Anaf Eitzova, says Arvei Nachal, Usamachtem Lefnei Hashem Lekechem Shivas Yom, and you rejoice for 7 days. So again, it's the 3rd time that rejoicing is mentioned. So the Medrash explains that there are 3 reasons to rejoice. 2 are related to the Chag HaOsef. Fact is that it's the holiday of the ingathering of the fruit. In Eretz Yisrael, it does not rain during the summer. So all that is harvested is dried out in the fields in order that it should be preserved for the winter. So the grains are in, not in silos, which in the building, but actually are outside. And because of the heat, it dries it out. So eventually, it'll be stored. The te'anim, the figs, are also only that they're prepared beforehand, and they sit in the field. So there's kites. We call the summer kites. That's really the time of the figs. So the peres ha'ilon says the fruits of the tree which are gathered. I mean, some are preserved through. Grapes are preserved through wine. I mean, that's why before they developed the ability to create grape juice through pasteurization, the only way to preserve the grape, which has a very short shelf life, was really through making it wine. And they preserve olives through making it olive oil. All of this was approximately at this time of the year. Everything is gathered in, everything is stored. So there are 2 reasons to rejoice. One is for the grain, which is the basic staple. Without grain, this is your carbohydrates. This is and this is the fruit of the second one is for the fruit. In fact, it's interesting. There's a Tosfos in Brachas and Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph explaining the bracha that we make. Berei nefashos rabos v'chesroinam. Al kol ma shebarasa lahachios b'hem nefesh kol. Hashem made things which are essential for life in general and for humans in particular. So when it comes to humans, it would be bread and water. And there are things that invigorate, add a sweetness to life. So we say, this is the bracha is V'rei nefashos rabos, you created many life forms. V'chesroinon, that which they're utterly lacking, which is essential for their existence. Al kol ma shebarasa lahachios b'hem nefesh kol chai. Besides everything you created, to this lahachios is to invigorate, to give a sweetness to life. And he says an example is apples. You can live without apples, but it creates a sweetness in life. Those 2 things, it would seem to be, are the 2 forms of the simcha. Now that the season is finished, everything is ready to be stored and consumed. One is the grain, and one is the peres ha'ila. That's 2. The third, what the rejoicing is, the third is that we went through a Yom Kippur and we were forgiven. And it would seem that there's a relationship between the whole holiday and Yom Kippur. Is when when it refers to Rosh Hashanah, it says on the 7th day, on the first day of this 7th month, the Chodesh HaShvi Hazeh. When it comes to Yom Kippur, it says Chodesh HaShvi Hazeh, this 7th month. And when it comes to Sukkot, it uses the exact same language. It seems to be that there's a connection. So according to the Medrash, part of the rejoicing is because of Yom Kippur. There's another aspect, another Medrash, that we say throughout this period of time, from Elul until Shmini Atzeres, we see L'Dovad Hashem Ori. L'Dovad Hashem Ori says V'yishi. Hashem is my light and my salvation. And the Medrash says, Ori, this is Rosh Hashanah. And then we have a new light, we have a new insight. It's V'yishi in salvation, the Medrash says, that even though the Satan, the divine, the angelic prosecutor, does not work on Yom Kippur. The Sori Umas Ha'olam, though, the angels represent the various nations, on Yom Kippur come to, every year, they come to challenge the special place the Jewish people have. And every year we come out victorious. And the Medrash explains that part of the reason of taking the lulav is just like victorious soldiers that come, warriors that come from the field of battle, lift up their armaments, their spears and their swords in rejoicing. So too, in a sense, that the lulav itself looks like a spear or a sword, and the esrog looks like the round spheres of stone that was used, the enemy used to shoot, to break through the walls, right? This was before cannonballs, but they had
catapult.
They through the catapults. Yeah. I mean, stones were used effectively. Look at David HaMelech kicking, says David with Goliath. That's right. See? So here you're holding the esrog is like the stones, and this is like and Didon Notzach, we were victorious. So part of the celebration, there's many aspects, but part of the celebration of the lulav and is we were victorious. Perhaps that's what Smachtam L'fnei Hashem Elokechem says. Shivas Yomim, rejoice in front of Hashem for 7 days, which is related to the lulav. Is the same as we say by Yom Kippur. L'fnei Hashem Elokechem Titoru, in front of God you should cleanse yourself. So we rejoice in God's presence. So here we're speaking about just in general the mitzvah of Simcha. And secondly, about the lulav, they're both related to Yom Kippur. I'd like to share with you, though, perhaps a third aspect, which relates to the sukkah itself. No, I'm fine.
A little scotch.
A little scotch.
Want some scotch?
Yeah. It's interesting. The whole notion of Yom Kippur, that we have a special day of atonement. L'alocha, you need to do tshuva. But there are things that tshuva by itself doesn't help. And it's that through Yom Kippur you have the kapora, you have the atonement. So, together with the tshuva, says in aspects of one's life that the tshuva itself would not work. The question is, how does that work? How does Yom Kippur work? Why is that so? The very first Yom Kippur was when we got the Luchas Habris, when we had the tablets. And it's called, the Mishnah in Tainus, in Chavava and Bais, refers to it as Man Torah. It's given in Luchas, but it was actually all of the Torah is encapsulated in the tablets. And finally, the second pair of tablets where the Luchos were given on that day. The Mishnah says, "Lahoy yomim tovim liyisrael." There are no more joyous, good days than Yom Kippur. We look at this as part of Yom Neroyim, the days of awe, because there were no better. This is joyous days than Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, and the Gemara in Tainus and Bava Basra as a whole, Arichos as a whole, long explanation of the historical events are associated with the 15th of Av. But in reference to Yom Kippur, it says the 2 luchos were given, and it's a day of Slicha v'Kapora. The Rashbam in Bava Basra, in Kuf Chav Aleph, says it's referring to the Kapora of the Chet HaEgel, that original Kapora that occurred. Like it's really rejoicing. So 2 things happened that day, that original day. We were forgiven because of the Chet HaEgel, because of the sin of the golden calf, and we received the luchos. And it would seem to be that they're really just 2 things that merge together. But I believe from the Mishnah itself, I think it sheds light that really they're not 2 separate things. That actually one is the cause of the other. That Mishnah, the last Mishnah in Tainus, explains the posuk in the end of the 3rd parak in Shir HaShirim. It says Tenu Rano, says B'noi Sion, says B'melech Shlomo, says go look the daughters of Zion and the king look the king Shlomo, which is an allegory really to Hashem, Melech Shalom Shalom, the king, is the source of all peace. Ba'Torah Shitra Lo Imoy, of the crown that his mother crowned him, and according to the allegory that Imos is over here means Umosoi, his nation crowned him. B'yoyim chasunoso b'yom simchas libo, the day of his marriage, the day of the gladness of his heart. When was the marriage of Hashem? When did that occur?
Sinai.
So the Medrash says Sinai. The Mishnah says this is Matan Torah. And Rashi says the Shnei Luchas Habris. And it says the Yom Simchas Liboy. So the Medrash says is referring to the Oil Moed, the Mishkan. But the Mishnah says Binyan Beis Hamikdash Yirbonim Herb Yomeinu Omein.
Amen.
But the Chas, in a sense, the giving of the Torah was, in a poetic sense, was really the wedding between Hashem and Klal Yisrael. We are the Kala, we are the bride. We know at a marriage, every marriage is like Yom Kippur. There's an atonement. Rashi says, in Parshas Vayishlach, explaining the posuk that Esav married the daughter of Yishmael. In one place she's called Bosmas, the other called she's Mochlas. So Rashi says her real name was Bosmas. She's Mochlas because one is forgiven when they get married.
Even Esav.
Right. So a marriage is a time of forgiveness. So we can understand giving the luchos, really, in the sense, was the marriage. Well, the marriage, it's a new beginning. The Kala gets forgiveness. Machlas got forgiveness. So therefore, the Mechila that we have on Yom Kippur is really a product of the Chasana, which is meant by the luchos. Every Chasana, really, it's a Chasana. We have a Shivas Yemei Mishnah. We have 7 days of rejoicing. In this time of Chazal, they had a base chasanas. They had a special room, that the chas and the kala were there the whole time. There's a sukkah, there's one chavheim and beis and sukkah. You can use a sukkah to be a base chasanas. Because the question is that they don't feel that they lack us a sense of privacy. But basically is that it is really there is a base chasanas. in that sense, we can understand. It says the simcha. We were saying about the simcha of one of the simchas is the Kippur of Yom Kippur. We could say really it's the simcha of our chasana. And if that's the sense, the chuppah is where the chos and the kala come together for those 7 days. You don't leave that. I mean, ideally, you sleep in this if you can. This is everything you do. You learn here.
Everything.
It becomes your home. It says, this is the Shivus Yemei HaMishna. This is the Chas. So in that sense, we can understand that really that the Sukkah is really, in a sense, the celebration is not only the lulav is the thing, or the simcha, but the whole Sukkah is at least one of course, there are many aspects, but one of the major aspects is really, this is the celebration of Yom Kippur, which is really our chasana. So I want to wish everybody Mazel Tov.
Enjoy the Chaim.
Happy anniversary.
Yes, they have an anniversary. And yes, Hashem, we should be zoicha to be in the sukkah or shall be yosan.
Amen.
Okay, Morty.
Sameach.